Hi there. I'm Sabrina, and you're listening to my new podcast, Introduction/Prologue. Not completely necessary to listen to. You can just listen to the actual episodes, I guess you would call them. But this is more so for me, just to get my objectives clear with why I'm doing this podcast, what I think I'll get out of it, what hopefully I'll be able to inform. I am a novice in this, if that's not obvious. This isn't scripted. I think right now I am talking in a way that seems like it is, because I'm bracing myself. Yeah, but we're not having any of that. I should say that, I am going to swear, and I'm not sure if that's something that I do need to say, but just as a trigger warning, I guess, I am going to be swearing in this episode, this introduction. I don't, think about it. It just happens, as well as the, episodes forthcoming. Side note, I will probably edit things out of this if I don't want it to be in there. I'm gonna try and not edit things so much because I don't want to censor myself, I guess. But, just things that I make me sound a little silly, stuff like that. So, why am I doing this podcast, which is centered around film? Well, I'm a film student. I don't make films. My degree is centered around theory in film and criticism in film. I say that as a question. I'm in my first year, so honestly, I don't really know what the degree is to me yet, but I've chosen to do a podcast because I feel as though, although I'm doing essays and work in my degree, I don't feel like I'm getting enough out of watching all these films. I'm not sure if that makes sense. Basically, I do feel I feel like I have a dilemma with my degree, of it feeling slightly empty. I'm very grateful that I'm a university student and I have this opportunity to learn more and hopefully in the future use that knowledge to become a filmmaker. Not to sound too cheesy or cliche, but I feel a little bit consumerist, if that's a word. Just consuming these movies and sometimes not even writing essays on the majority of them, because obviously we don't do that. Another side note, I'm not sure if I can say what school I'm going to. I don't know how much information I can give, that sort of thing, but just know that there is no practicality, sounds bad. There is no practical filmmaking in my course. Okay, so I am just running in circles with this introduction. I do have bullet points of what I want to say. So yes, my first bullet point is that I'm not completely satisfied with my degree. And I feel as though this podcast will help me materialize, in a way, my thoughts and opinions of things. I'm probably not going to talk about films that I watch in class so much because I already talk about that in classes. But perhaps, sometimes I will, if I have specific things that I want to say, if I feel as though it's important. So a very important reason of why I want to do this podcast is, as I've mentioned, because I want to be a filmmaker in the future. I'm not sure what role yet, what I want to pursue specifically in that field. But I know that I have a passion for film and that I want to fuel this passion but in a more casual and less intensive way than making films, because making films is time consuming. It takes a lot of energy, although I do want to do that as well. But I think in the meantime, something that I can do is a podcast. Everyone's doing it, so why not me? Why not I? Anyways, okay, also I think this podcast will be helpful in forcing myself to watch more films, which sounds silly. You would think that wouldn't be such a difficult thing to do, especially if you're in a film degree. But it is weirdly not what I do enough of. I watch many films for my degree, but outside of my degree, I don't. I watch quite a few TV shows, and I'd like to talk about those as well. But I've got just such a long watch list. I've got multiple lists of films that I need to see, classics, which not everyone thinks you need to watch, but I have certain ones I want to watch. By the way, sorry, I might be over-explaining certain things. I will get better at this talking thing as we go through these podcasts. But yes, I think doing this podcast will hold me accountable to watching more films, as well as maybe treating it kind of like a book club, where at the end of a podcast I'll be saying something like, okay, well, I'm planning on watching this film before the next episode, and then I have to do it, and then I also have to have thoughts about it, because that's another thing. I feel like I again, consume films without really thinking about it, or I'll have thoughts about it, but I really want to be able to talk about it and make it mean something a little more than just thoughts in my brain, which are still important, but, it's something else to be able to talk about it and also write about it. It's, I don't know, it'll help me just... what's the word? Round my opinions more? Ground? Anyways. So treating it as a book club sort of thing, and that way you, the listener, can perhaps follow along. At the end of a podcast, I'll say to watch this film, and then you watch it, and then I talk about it, and you come back with your opinions, because I am planning to put this, I think, not only on iTunes, because that's the first place that I would think podcasts are on, but also YouTube, so that is somewhere that I can get direct feedback from listeners. It should be said that I will spoil films, so I will be titling each podcast by a film, and you should just assume, that sounded very aggressive, but just assume that I will be spoiling it, because I will be spoiling it. Perhaps before I actually spoil things, I will say spoiler warning, but honestly, doing a film degree, we don't even say spoiler warning anymore. It's a given that it will be spoiled. And yes, that kind of sucks sometimes, but it's learning to enjoy the journey and not the destination. Am I right? Anyways, so yeah, just assume that things will be spoiled. I'm very sorry, but that's just how I'm going to be doing things. I won't be able to talk about things fully enough, and I really don't want to restrict my opinions, period. Okay, so those are things that I want out of this podcast, I guess. Hopefully, as a film student, I can give some informed opinions based on actual theories, but honestly, this will be a lot more opinion-based, so if you don't care about my opinion, I guess don't listen, but hopefully you do. I think I have some, not to toot my own horn, I think I have some things to say, but also it's just fun to have a discussion. I want to hear what other people think, want to hear what you think. And that brings me to my next point. What I want in the future for this podcast kind of thing. I mean, everything I've been saying is what I want in the future for this, but specific things are guests. I really would like to have people to actually talk to, because actually the majority of my of the podcasts I listen to are always two or more people talking. I don't really listen to a podcast of just one person talking, which is why I was hesitant to make one in the first place, because it seems quite grueling to have to do this all on your own, but I think I'm doing okay so far. Anyways, regardless of that, I still would really love to have certain people on here, friends, because everyone has an opinion on film, so it's not, that could be a good and bad thing, hey, but no, it's great. I want to hear the opinions of my friends. I think everyone has a different view on things, and that's always fun to talk about. Also, I want these podcasts to become more polished as time goes on. Hopefully, I've edited this in a alright way, a listenable way, if that's a word. I have no clue what I've named this yet. I don't know what to name these. I think right before I fell asleep last night, I couldn't sleep. I don't know why. Perhaps it was the triple shot flat white that I drank. Anyways, I was thinking, what are the things I like other than film? Flat whites. And I was thinking, film and flat whites. That's just such a catchy title, is it not? I might just name it sabscast, but that sounds like, a physical cast, like I've gotten into an injury and now I have a cast on my leg. But that's also very simple, nickname Sab, etc., etc. I don't know what I'm going to name it, so the name might change later on. And I would like to have an introduction song. I don't think I will have one for this, just because I want to get this introduction out of the way. It's just kind of housekeeping things. But of course the song will have to either be an original that I make, which I don't really have instruments with me, or a copyright-free song. So we'll see about that. I do want something to ease my voice in and the episode in. I think that's a commonality within a lot of podcasts I listen to, and I like it very much. I would also like a better thumbnail, because right now I think I might have a drawing, or maybe it's just a title, I'm not sure, but a better thumbnail. And last but not least, updates on filmmaking. Maybe, I will be talking about not only my thoughts on a specific film, but end the podcast with, if I'm doing filmmaking things, to talk about that a little bit and the process. So yeah, I'm really hoping that everything I've said is intelligible. I have just realized that I haven't even really said what I'm going to be specifically talking about in each podcast. But I'll write a description for this whole thing, and explain that. But I mean, basically, I am going to just talk about one film or two, especially if it's the same director or if it's the same genre, and just my opinions on that. Basically, my opinions based on other people's opinions. It's not rocket science, and I don't know if I would even call this podcast that educational. But personally, what I like out of podcasts is the casual aspect. If it just feels like I'm listening to a friend talking, it's really nice. That is what I mostly listen to. I used to listen to a few educational podcasts, like BBC ones, but now just more casual, because, you can tune in and out, and I think that's cool. Like, I don't think that's a bad thing. Just to have in the background even, I think that's nice, just hearing a sentence and being like, oh, I agree with that, or oh, that's stupid, or just, anything to make a person giggle. I like that kind of stuff very casual. I think I've explained things enough. So, yeah, I really hope, that this goes well, and I hope at some point I can make a bit of a schedule so that I can keep on top of my shit, basically. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say. Lengthwise, I think I will try to just hit a 30-minute mark, because just talking right now, this has been, around 17 minutes, and this was already quite a lot for just one person. But I thought 30 minutes would be quite little just to talk about one film. We'll see, though. I will try to hit the 30-minute mark, and that will be the baseline, I guess you could say. It's not really a baseline, is it? Anyways, I really hope that this was coherent once again. And yeah, I don't really have a clear idea of what I'm going to do for the first podcast, because I was planning to do this introduction episode ages ago and do the first podcast episode immediately afterwards. So I've been, that was many films ago. Many films I have watched since. I don't know why I'm speaking this way, but I hope that this prologue introduction thing was helpful if you did listen to it. It's not completely necessary, but it is an explanation as to why I'm doing this. A basic explanation is I'm a film student and I want to. I'm no one that important, but I feel like why not? There is not a huge argument for why I shouldn't do this, so why not? I'm going to sign off now. I'm going to make some breakfast because I did not do that, and I'm going to write an essay that I should have started ages ago. So, yeah. I'll see you in the next one.